As some background, my family has a weird opinion on birthday parties. They feel like they're a waste of money and throwing one means that you got money to spare and flaunt. So, being that I grew up in a family that was all about appearances when me and my siblings weren't, we went to a lot of birthday parties and never had one of our own. Anyway, one year, I'd been really sick leading up to my birthday, so I begged my parents for a birthday party so I could see all my friends that I hadn't been able to see for the past few weeks, and after days of begging, I was going to get my Rugrats party. I have a cousin who is a complete spoiled brat, and the entitled one here. They're a few days older than me, and because of how our birthdays fell that year, she celebrated hers one weekend and mine's would be the next weekend. For her birthday, she had a laser tag party with some of her friends and a few of our cousins. There was no cake, just pizza, laser tag, and candy bars. It was a fun party, and I don't remember anybody complaining. So, cue my party. A couple of my friends are there and pretty much my entire family. The entitled cousin and her mother show up pretty early and tell me happy birthday and put their gift under the table. No more than 5 minutes later, I hear the entitled cousin starting to say how much she loves Rugrats, how beautiful the decorations are, and how this is a great looking party. She then turns to her mum and says, "Tell Tio thank you for throwing me a great birthday party." I turned to her and said this was my birthday, not hers, as she'd had hers the week before, and her response was, "So, that was last week. This is my party this week." I again told her no and even showed her the cake which said my name on it. She immediately started crying and her and the entitled mum went over to my dad. The entitled mum starts calling my father inconsiderate that we wouldn't include the entitled cousin in the birthday celebrations because we were only a few days apart and it was like throwing a party for one twin and excluding the other. Me and the entitled cousin weren't even close. I could never even stand her. She went on to say how the entitled cousin didn't get a cake for her birthday because they couldn't afford it, which is rubbish because cake is way less expensive than laser tag, and not all of the family got to go because once again, they were poor and couldn't pay for everyone. We were so much more well off to be able to afford all of this, and we should share the day with the entitled cousin so that she can have a proper party with her family. My dad gave in and said she can be up there with me when we sing happy birthday. So we went about the party until it was time to sing, and the crap really hits the fan. They take the top off the cake, and the entitled cousin and entitled mum remember that my name is the one on the cake. The entitled mum grabs a knife and literally scrapes my name off the cake. When they were singing, people said my name first, and the entitled mum stopped them and said the names should be changed in age order, meaning the entitled cousin's name comes first, and had them redo the song. The entitled cousin got to cut the first slice of my cake because of the age thing again, and then when it came to opening the presents, something I usually do after the party, the entitled mum insisted that we do it now and give the entitled cousin some of the gifts so she didn't feel left out. Most of the gifts were clothes, and me and the entitled cousin weren't the same size, so she couldn't take those, but one gift from my parents was this turquoise and white Furby that I'd been bugging them for since Christmas. I was so excited when I opened it up, but so was the entitled cousin. She said that the one she got for Christmas broke and was excited to get a new one and tried to take it from me. I held tight and said it was mine. The entitled mum said I needed to share my gifts with her daughter because it was our birthday. I told her no and she tried to take it from me and I threw it behind the table where all the other gifts were. We both got up to run for it and I got to the table first and took the remaining amount of cake and threw it in her face. The entitled mum went off. She called me a spoilt brat who needed to learn some manners and went to slap me, but one of my older brothers got in the way and grabbed her, telling her that she needed to leave. After some arguing, she took entitled cousin like 6 favor bags and the gift she brought for me and left. And while I've been seeing them at family gatherings over the years, that was the last time either of them actually talked to me. I didn't win that day, but never having to interact with them again was definitely a win. Damn, this is one of the most brutal ways that we've ever had to start an episode. Quite frankly, if I had somebody like this in my family, I would absolutely lose it. I think everyone's had their fair share of tiffs or arguments with their families, but this really just tops the lot for me. I really just couldn't imagine having a family member completely derail my birthday party because they couldn't plan a birthday party for their own kid that actually made them happy. Or even worse, having a family member who raises their child to think they're entitled to ruining and stealing my birthday party. I just don't know how I would survive with this. Back in the day, this quiet kid and Garfield used to be good friends. They were neighbors, living close to each other, so during summers they'd meet up with other kids and play in the streets. The entitled mum used to talk about her kid as if he was superior to the rest, with comments like, "Oh please, even Garfield could manage that," and she was generally talking bad about other parents as well. Eventually, Garfield was invited to the quiet kid's house for a group project. They were both in the same class, around 10 years old, and projects like these generally require teamwork, so it's easier to meet up in one person's place and do the work there. At first, everything was fine. There was a lot of work, but they were both working their way through it. Eventually, the quiet kid proclaimed that he'd be right back and that he needed to do something, so Garfield should just wait in the room. Garfield complied, although she needed to use the restroom, and 20 minutes pass, and quiet kid is still not back in the room. Garfield couldn't hold herself for much longer, so she went to the bathroom and opened the door. Voila! The entitled mum is wiping her son's ass, whose face now has become red in embarrassment. Garfield immediately closes the door and apologizes. In complete disbelief of what she just saw, she packed her things and used the other restroom. Once Quiet Kid left the restroom, she excused herself and went home, since she didn't want to make things any more awkward than they already were. After that, Quiet Kid and Garfield stopped talking, since Quiet Kid was glaring at her for embarrassing him. The parents cut ties shortly after, which resulted in the entitled mum being left out of the group the parents made that weren't related to the school. We're still left to wonder why he couldn't wipe himself. I mean, even Garfield could do that. Honestly, this one's just sad. You preach as if your son is the greatest person in the world and you can't even teach him basics of going to the toilet. Like literally nothing against this kid at all. This has nothing to do with him because this is like basics 101 of how to be a human being, and this mum has clearly failed in her duties as a mother. There are plenty of embarrassing things that people do that are well out of their control. Like there are people who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever that still wet the bed, right? But like I said, for the most part, these are out of their control. The difference with this is something you should have taught your kid instead of babying him for his whole life. So summer of 2017, I worked as a lifeguard at the local water park. At the time I was 17 and I thought it would be fun to work there. There are lots of crappy things that have happened and lots of stupid people, but this one has stuck with me the most. We had several water slides and a hot tub, which was particularly popular due to the weather averaging in the 70s. We had several safety rules and signs posted around the hot tub stating things like, no children under the age of 6 in the tub, etc. The last one was often the cause of parents getting upset because their child was freezing and just wanted to warm up. We would allow children 6 and under to sit on the edge and put their feet in the hot tub, but due to the county health department rules, we weren't allowed to let them in the tub completely. Enter the entitled parent, and it was early on a Friday morning, just after open, so about 10 AM. And there were maybe 6 families in the park, no wait times, and no small children in the kiddie pool. This lady walks up to the hot tub and starts getting in. Babe in arms, and I'm guessing by the side of this child, it was about 2. I remind the lady of the rules, but she could place her child on the edge with her feet in the water if she liked. Shortly after, I look back over to the lady, and not only was her child not on the side of the tub, her child was completely submerged in the water, which was another rule you couldn't put your head under. So I rushed over to her and her child to check on the child, and she quickly scooped the child out of the water and placed her on the side of the pool, all well within sight. I said to her, "Ma'am, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the hot tub if I see you place your child in the water again." She snapped back at me and said, "Don't call me ma'am. I'm probably the same age as you. Anyway, what is it to you? It's my child, and if I say it's okay, then it's okay." I responded with, "I'm sorry, but since I don't know your name, that's what I thought would be appropriate to call you. As much as I would like to let you decide what temperature water is okay for your child, it's part of my job to enforce the rules. And that particular isn't even created by my employer, but rather the county health department." She scoffed at me and said, "Sure it is." She rolled her eyes and walked towards the other side of the hot tub, and shortly after, she got out of the hot tub, walked up to one of my co-workers, asked something, and then went to the office to speak with my boss. A few minutes later, my boss came out to me and said, "A lady just complained to me that you were rude to her. Want to tell me about what happened?" So I explained that I noticed she wasn't following our rules and had brought her toddler in the hot tub regardless of my warnings. My boss was totally understanding and said, "Yeah, that's what I thought. She tried to tell me that you called her kid a little crap and you called her fat. She said she wanted you fired and free tickets to the park. I told her that I'd reprimand you and we'd look into what happened. I just came over here to make it look like I was giving you a talking to." Like, this kind of stuff is actually so common. I worked in a call center as a manager for quite a while, and the amount of rubbish that customers would make up thinking that they could get away with whatever they wanted to say was crazy. Seriously, have you not heard the message that happens every single time you call a call center that says a call is being recorded? Like, do you really think we're not going to listen to that if you say that somebody's abused the crap out of you over the phone? Like, I just don't get it. I'd taken music in my last year of school, and in Scotland it's called 6th year, and at that point I'd been playing guitar for a little under 2 years. And the level of guitar for the qualification I was made to take by the school because I hadn't picked music as a subject before wasn't all too challenging for me. The school provided free lessons as part of the course, and the guitar teacher would take all of the guitarists together in a group for us to practice and learn the pieces we had been given to play for the final exam. There were 3 guitar players in my class: me, the the entitled kid, and another guy that we'll call Dave. I used to bring my guitars into school because I was most comfortable playing my own instruments. The entitled kid liked my guitars and wouldn't stop asking if he could play them. Near Christmas time, the school put on a Christmas concert and our class was up to play Merry Christmas Everybody by Slade. And I'd been asked to play lead guitar, which had a little improvised solo that me and my guitar teacher had made up, and the entitled kid was put on rhythm. Dave was originally supposed to be rhythm, but the entitled kid whined and moaned until Dave gave up and switched places with the entitled kid and played bass. It got to a week until the concert and everyone was staying after school to do on-stage rehearsals, and the entitled kid's mum was watching. She worked in the school office and was waiting for rehearsals to be over so she could take the entitled kid home. Anyway, I was practicing my solo in the corner and the entitled parent approaches me. She asks if the entitled kid can play the guitar that I'm using and that I could use the blue one for a bit. The blue guitar was a beat up Yamaha Pacifica. I say no and explain to her that the guitar I play is my own guitar and I don't like giving it over to other people. She gave a huffed fine and walks off. I go back to practice thinking that nothing more would come of this. At the end of the rehearsal, my music teacher pulls me into her class where the guitar teacher is sitting and she asks if I would mind if the entitled kid played lead and I took his rhythm place. I wasn't happy about this and I told them that the entitled kid wouldn't learn the solo on time and that wouldn't be a good idea. The guitar teacher agreed with me, but it was made clear that I wasn't being asked but rather told, because the entitled kid had told his mummy what he wanted and the entitled parent pestered the teachers to make sure he got what he wants. The day before the concert, the guitar teacher was going over our stuff, and go course, the entitled kid was struggling with the solo, so I asked if he was sure about playing the lead. He replied that he still wanted to play, and that he knew what he was playing. Near the end of the lesson, I told the guitar teacher that I'd be using my other guitar, because I thought it would be better for rhythm, and that I'd be in early to set up with it. Later that night, I receive a message from the entitled kid telling me to bring my SG in for him because it's a lead guitar, and he needed it because he was the lead guitarist. I obviously tell him no because 1, I only had 1 gig bag at the time, and 2, I don't loan my guitars out and end the conversation there. The morning of the concert, I'm helping the guitar teacher set up amps and mics for the percussion instruments, as well as getting my guitar set up for the show when the entitled parent comes up to the stage and asks if my other guitar is in the instrument storeroom. I tell her no and that I'd told the entitled kid that he wasn't getting to use my guitar, and she looked at me like I'm an idiot and said something along the lines of, "The entitled kid told you to bring it. What is he supposed to play at the concert?" I told her that it wasn't my problem and that he'd have to play the Pacifica that we had set up. She didn't like that and neither did the entitled kid, but there was nothing that they could do about it. The guitar was my property and the school had no power on that. The concert came, and as to be expected, the entitled kid totally messed up the solo and didn't add any of the little fancy licks that I had anywhere during the performance. Solid rhythm and bass guitars though. You know, it's good to see an entitled parent story where their pathetic attitude actually backfires on them. We see stories where the poster will sometimes give a little clap back to the entitled parent or things will just go a little bit wrong, but we don't see enough stories where the entitled parent's horrible attitude is actually what completely stuffs them up. The worst thing is, this entitled parent is going to learn absolutely nothing from this situation and she's going to stay exactly the same. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm just going to take a second to plug a couple of my social medias, including our Discord server. I do have a Twitter and an Instagram if you want to follow me on both of those. They are both at Bumfris, and feel free to send me a message and I'll do my best to respond. I also just want to take a second to say thank you so much for all the love lately, all of the comments, the likes, the subscribers, just the fact that you guys tune in and watch my videos every day. It really does make my day. Every single one of you is the backbone of this channel and I really cannot express how much I appreciate that. Without you guys, this channel would be nothing, and I love making these videos for you guys and I love the fact that you enjoy them. So on that note, I will wrap things up for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to take a second again to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Entitled Parents. Bye.